guys, Amy here. Today I'm going to show you a video. I've been talking in the group about how I'm starting to use Photoshop more, so I wanted to give you a little introduction into how Photoshop differs from Lightroom and how you can have a lot more control over your photo. Lightroom is great. Generally I'm editing in Lightroom, but I'm starting to learn there's a lot of things in Photoshop that I like. One question I had is, how do I control my workflow by using using Photoshop more? My ultimate goal is still to keep my photos under 5 minutes. So I try to keep all of my major adjustments in Lightroom and only do enhancements in Photoshop. And I'm going to show you how I do that right now. I'm going to walk you through. I have not touched this photo at all whatsoever. This is my very first time editing it. You have seen a similar one. It's this one. So I'm going to talk you through my whole thought process. If I use a preset, which I know I'm going to here in just a minute, then I'm going to tell you exactly where I got it from and why I use it, because it's the only two that I use. So, this photo I took just this past weekend, and I'm going to show you how this works. Like I said, this is my first time working with it, so there may be a lot of, oh no, I don't like that look, that looks really bad, let me back up. So don't judge me for that, but for the most part, this is my current workflow for this session. Preset number 1 is a sharpening preset that I got from Totally Rad, and this is my totally favorite preset whatsoever, and it's the Totally Rad Basics, and it's this one. It's called The Shit's Out of Focus. Pardon my language, but that's really what it's called. And I click on that, and that brings some, I don't know what this is, but it's like magic. However, with this preset, it brings a little bit of green, so then I always bump my luminance, every single photo, up to 50. Do the focus preset, bump my luminance up to 50. That's always step 1 and 2. Step number 3 is always the same, and I'm going to show you 2 ways that I do this. One is a preset that I got from, I actually cannot tell you where I got this one from. I can look it up later. It may have come with Lightroom. I don't really know. But it's this one, Exposure, Brighten, Center. Because they are perfectly centered, that's going to put a pop of light right there in the center of my photo. Now, like I said, there are 2 ways to do this, so I'm going to remove that. The other one is to take a Lightroom brush, hit not contrast, exposure, and I'm going to raise that to encompass my subject. Click and drag it right down the middle, bump my exposure, just like that. Yes, I always overexpose during this part, because when I'm done with my brush, I'm going to come over to the exposure, and I'm going to reduce my exposure to where my background is dark, but my subject is still exposed properly. And for me, it brings emphasis to my subject, and it darkens the background just a little bit around them. So yes, that is exactly how I do that part. Then I'm going to darken my shadows a little bit, and my blacks. And for the most part, to be 100% honest, other than my exposure still being just a little bit brighter than I like, this used to be how I deliver a photo and be like, here, it's done, it looks great, right? I may slap a matte preset on it, call it a day, which does, and I'm going to show you right now, I'm starting to do my matting in Photoshop. This is the matte preset that I used to use. It's very harsh, really on those darks, looks really bad. I have that one from BP4U, and then there's also this one from BP4U, which does the same thing. I think they're the same, just got a name different. But as you can see, like in here, it's super dark, and I don't like that at all. And I'm going to show you how Photoshop can matte a photo, how I matte a photo in Photoshop, and then how I can kind of control from keeping those dark places from getting so dark when I matte it. Because matte is sometimes in fashion and sometimes not, but it really just depends on the photo. I personally love matte, and I matte almost every photo. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move this photo into Photoshop because it's ready. And I'm going to go to Photo, Edit in Photoshop. And this is going to take a little bit of time, so just play that Jeopardy song in your head as it starts to transfer over to Photoshop. As I said, we're running like molasses today, and I haven't figured out how to pause when I'm recording and restarting. I think I need a new program. What are we doing today, you guys? It's thinking. Seriously? I'm in Photoshop right now? Aha! We're moving. Okay. Oh, nope. Come back, Photoshop. I tell my husband every day it is time for a new computer. This thing is so slow. And I promise it's not just because I have a lot open. This computer is over 3 years old. It has seen better days. So, when you go to edit photo in Photoshop, that automatically brings your photo into Photoshop. You don't have to save it. It's there. Your edits in Lightroom are there, and it's good to go. So, in Photoshop, you have masks, you have layers, you have all kinds of stuff, you have overlays. It's confusing. There's so much to do. So, as I go through this, if you have any questions, put them in the comments and I will answer them. The first thing I'm going to do to this photo is I'm going to add what is called an overlay. There are all kinds of overlays that you can use. We have light, we have bokeh, we have skies, we have, you name it, there's an overlay for that. I mean, there are now like digital backdrops that you can overlay onto these photos. It is crazy. But for me, this photo was shot literally 6:45 in the morning. The goal to shoot that early was so that there was no sun. So we're going to add a little bit of sun to this photo. I got these, and I'm going to File, Place, Embedded. And I love BP4U. If you watch my videos, you're going to hear me talk about me getting my stuff from her all the time. And you can see all the different light. There's so many different places that you can buy light overlays and light leaks. But for this specific photo, I'm not going to go through all of the ones that I have because I have a lot. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to use this. This is the one that I've been using on most of my photos. And that's going to place it. Then I want to put it over here. And as you notice, it made its own layer. Okay? You can go in and make a new layer, place it if you want. It automatically makes a new layer. And this is really important. Layers are awesome. And it used to be so confusing, and that's what scared me away from Photoshop for so long, because I'm starting to get used to Photoshop. I'm starting to learn that layers and masks are friends. They're not scary. Anyway, so I'm going to place this, and it looks super bright right now, right? And you can make sun flares in Photoshop by using a gradient. I think that's what they're called. But to save time, I use an overlay. Same thing. So, I'm going to place that there, and I'm going to hit my check mark. Now, you're probably going, Amy, oh my gosh, this is so bright. What did you do? Look at this line. That shouldn't be there. Well, I'm going to go over here to my opacity, and I'm going to reduce it until I like it. I just want a little bit of light, not a whole lot. Now, as I said, this line actually should be there. I thought that was part of the photo. Anyway, I'll show you how to erase here in just a minute. So, it's still not quite. Ignore that last part for me. So there we go. Light leak overlay. Pretty easy, right? They come in so many different shapes, colors, flares. It's crazy. I just want to keep it simple. Like, there's a little bit of light over there, when in reality, I know the light was behind me. So that's that. The next step that I'm doing in these photos is I'm matting it. And to mat it, I go right over here, and you can't see because I can't figure out how to move my recording, but you'll see right here, there's a little circle that's halfway white and halfway black. And I'm going to choose solid color. Now, this automatically somehow is saved. Don't know how I did it, but this is the color, this gray that I use to matte my photos. And I'm going to hit OK. Now you're like, Amy, it's so gray. What did you do? Well, let me show you. You go over here and you hit screen. And that's going to screen that gray onto the photo, and you can already see that it's matted, but it's still not quite what you want. So I'm going to go over to my opacity and I'm going to reduce it. Reduce. And I can show you exactly, that's without the solid color, with the solid color, without, with, okay? So if you ever want to see how a photo has made changes, you just hit this little eyeball over here and it'll show you what it looks like without and with. So this still obviously doesn't look right, but I want to, and this is what I was telling somebody, they asked, why am I doing so much more in Photoshop? I want to control where my photo is matted at. I don't want so much matte on them as I do the background, because I want my subjects to pop. So to do that, I go right over here to my mask. When you choose one of these things, a mask automatically pops up. If it doesn't, you just go over here, I believe it's layer mask, hide all, reveal all. I'll go over that in another video. But this one's already here. So I want to erase this gray off of my subjects, but I don't want to erase all of it, just some of it. So you want to choose your paintbrush, because that's how you're going to brush it off. And you want to make sure that this box right here is black, okay? And then I'm going to go up to my opacity, and usually about 50%. I'm going to reduce my brush just a little, and I'm going to brush that right off of them. Right off my subject, and you're going to see how that slightly takes some of the matte off of them. And I can zoom in and you can see the difference in the matte. So I'm actually going to, I was going to show you what it looks like before I removed it, but I didn't think of that. Alright, so there's that. Now let's say I want to bring that matte back onto them for whatever reason. Then to bring it back, if this is white, when your mask is white, black is going to erase and white is going to bring back. If your mask is black, then it's just the opposite. So because my mask is white and I want to bring the mask back, I'm going to hit this arrow. It's going to pull it up white, and I can brush that matte right back on them, and I can choose my opacity for that as well. So I'm going to brush this back on them so that you can see the difference here. Alright. And then I'm going to brush it back off just so that it's there at 50. And I'm doing this super quick, just for the video. I don't like to make these videos too long. So, now you're probably going, okay, Amy, this doesn't look like all of your regular photos. It's very pale in comparison to what you've been putting out for this session. Well, you're right. Next step would be a curves layer. And to do that, I go right back over here to my circle, half black, half white circle, and I choose curves. Okay, and as you see, that brought up a curves and a mask. And for this, I've been going right to my midpoint and pulling this down. As you see, that brings back some of the color. Okay, still got the matte look. And you can just kind of play with it. I play with it till I like the background. I don't worry about what my subject looks like because I can brush it off. So, that, and for the most part, is my curves. And I'm going to go to my mask, make sure my brush is black, generally 50%, and I'm gonna brush that right off. It's a very subtle change on them, I promise. It's not enough to see, but enough that it makes a little bit of a difference. And if you want to see what that looks like with the curves and without, bam. Okay? Now there's one more step that I've been taking on these photos, and I'm going to go back here to my half circle, and I'm going to choose photo filter, and I'm going to choose a warming filter, because everybody likes a warm photo. So this is the warming filter I use. You have a bunch of different ones that you can use. Warming filter 85 is the one that I generally use on all my photos, but you can just kind of play with them. But I'm going to go back to warming 85. Now, this is super warmer than I prefer, so I'm going to go to my opacity, and I'm going to reduce that just a tad, just a little. I still want it warm, but I don't want it as warm. And again, for them, I'm just going to brush it kind of off their skin a little bit higher than normal. Just going to brush that off. So, I'm still not 100% okay with my curves layer, so I'm going to click on that. Bring it back. I'll just add another one. Oh, no, I don't know what I did there. Okay. So, I want to add another curves layer because it's not quite as dark as I like. And I'm just going to pull this down just a tad. There we go. There we go. Now I'm a little happier with that. And again, I'm going to brush off. Because you want your subject to pop, so that's why we brush it off of our subjects. So, you can go back in, say you forgot something, click on your layers, like that. There was some stuff on his shoulder I was just looking at, but there you go. That's kind of how that works. You can even remove that if you like, but again, I like that little pop of fake sun. Nobody has to know it's fake. They probably think it's there, but that's the photo. So your next step after you've edited the photo is to I always bring it back into the Lightroom, and to do that, I just hit File, Save, go into Lightroom, Jeopardy music again. See, there's our before. Oh, it's doing something. It'll pop up. There it comes. And it will automatically bring it back into Lightroom for you. So when you're done editing all of the photos, then you can just do a batch export out. Now, one thing to remember, when you do that, when you bring a photo back into Photoshop, your original Lightroom photo is still there. So if you don't want your client to have both, then just make sure that you delete, or just delete it out of the catalog so that they don't get it when you do a batch export. There is one more thing. I know this video is getting long, but I wanted to go over, and I forgot it. I'll make another video for that. I know that somebody wanted to see how to blur a background. I'll take care of that in another video. But again, if you have any questions, I'm a fast talker. I get really excited about things. Like if you can see me right now, see the excitement that I got going on in my hands. But this is my current workflow for this session, okay? I do some basic adjustments in Lightroom. I fix my exposure, my shadows, and my blacks, my whites. And then I bring the photo into Photoshop, and I matte it, and I add some sun, and I do some curve work, and then voila, it's done. So, again, questions, drop them down there, and I will answer them as they come in. Thanks.